I thought I'd do a video summing up Stickam last night, Saturday night. It was a good night. I sort of purposely kind of directed conversation. Matt was in there, so we talked quite a bit, especially late. As usual, there was politics earlier and different subjects, but I was sort of interested in pointing the argument at Matt and trying to get him to explain how he accounts for life's purpose. Let's say there's no God. Then atheists have a responsibility sort of to come up with a justification for life, an explanation for why they presume it to make sense. And I mean make sense in the logical sense, like make logical sense as a creation. Because my argument would be kind of taking the bacteria with brains one step further, is that we're kind of just born in need. The need is generated with our generation, with our creation. We are in deprivation, and we spend our life attempting to satisfy the sense of deprivation created inside of us. And obviously, people can argue that we do that rather inefficiently, especially in the systems we have, because we exploit the deprivation of other people and the desperation of other people to satisfy our needs for consumption, to consume. And I guess it would also go to the argument of population. The world population keeps growing. People keep having kids. They keep rationalizing that decision as if it's the right thing to do. It's not even that they question it. It's not even that they feel an obligation to justify it. There's this built-in presumption that you're doing the right thing by creating more people. And it's not just, largely it is religious people that do it, but there's people who aren't, heavily burdened by faith obligations that are engaging in the behavior. It's not because their faith commands it. They do it because they want to. And they don't feel any need to justify creating more addicts. And that's sort of a word I want to keep using, because that's sort of the nature of what we are. I want somebody to argue the point, provide a counter argument. Maybe somebody, if you can make a video, if you disagree, then make the damn argument, because I'd love to have the argument. I want people to explain or defend or justify the rationale that proves or demonstrates the logic that shows how life makes sense, how it is a logical, reasonable creation, where it is cost effective by whatever. However, it's hard to articulate this stuff because we have a limited language, and this is a strange to conceptualize. How do you justify an addict's addiction? And one could argue, okay, well, the addict gets what they're addicted to, and that could be called success. But there is this fundamental infrastructural cost to that satisfaction, and we see it in the real world. We see it in the standard drug addict. We see the sloppiness of that life, and we see it in the world we've created, where there's all this sloppiness. There's a lot of things paying for our satisfaction. Not only the animals we eat, but the people we mistreat, and the people that just get mistreated by the processes and the systems we've created to, shove the cheese in our faces. So that was basically how I pointed the argument. It was a good discussion. I think in the end, I don't know whether I accomplished anything. Me and Matt see the end as this being the same in terms of changing human behavior, changing human expectations, but we just fundamentally disagree on how you get people to behave more responsibly. I would argue that people have to almost be humiliated into it, that they have to feel a strong sense of responsibility if they're going to have the will to sacrifice anything. They have to feel burdened to do that. If they don't feel any burden, then they're not going to, because we're by nature selfish assholes. And Matt thinks, conversely, that we have some innate love for each other, some concern, some emotion that will drive us to do the right thing in a positive manner, and not through negative emotion. And I just don't buy that argument. I don't think there's any evidence of human beings doing anything until they have to do it, till they're forced. And the most powerful mechanism is the realization that you aren't the center of the universe, and that a sense of obligation. I mean, people have to feel a sense of obligation to the future. I mean, the future is, even if you only counted yourself as one individual, and you said to yourself, well, I'm going to be replaced in the future by another individual. I mean, there's 6.5 billion people now. There's going to be 7 billion people tomorrow. At least one of them is my replacement. I mean, if you only counted that one person, you could say that, and then that person's going to be replaced by somebody, and that person's going to be replaced by somebody. So you could create dozens of people who are your future, that are dependent on what you do now. Their life is going to be dependent on it, because we're building the future. We're the foundation for the future. The future is going to be stuck with what we impose on it by our behavior. And so even if it was just 12 people you were investing in, it should matter to you. And if you expanded your philosophy a little bit and recognized that your consciousness is equal or the same as every other human consciousness that exists, substantially the same, then you would realize that there's billions and billions of human beings essentially dependent on the world you create. Billions of yourself, things equal to yourself, just as meaningful, just as what other word is there? Just as in need of concern and respect and all those things as yourself, out there, dependent on you and what you're willing to do to create a world that they can live in, that makes sense. And if you can have that kind of perception, then you're going to feel the obligation. You're automatically going to realize that, there's more at stake here than whether or not I'm getting any, or whether I'm happy. Because it's not all about your satisfaction. That limited perspective goes nowhere. That is the cliche bacteria with a brain, all right? Because you're only using your consciousness, your capacity to reason, to satisfy your consciousness, to satisfy the deprivation that was born into you, and there's no accomplishment in that. It's sort of like if you visualize our existence as a rat maze chasing game. There's nothing we can create. There's no monuments or things we could build that make any sense, that serve any purpose. I mean, we can see it in other cultures. What did they do with their excess wealth or their surplus? They built stupid pyramids, or they built cathedrals, or they built nonsense crap that has no real substance. And that's the dilemma of the human being, and that the real thing we have to work on is getting rid of the price being paid for our existence. We can't make existence more valuable. We can't make the existence of consciousness more meaningful. All we can do, we can't make the practical value of satisfying need that had no need to exist in the first place. We can't ever make that make sense. But what we can make sense, how we can acquire a purpose, is by eliminating the excesses and the cost, how much we have to pay for it. So if we think about life as something you pull off the shelf in a store, we can better justify it. I don't know if we can ever justify, but we can better justify the purchase if we reduce the fucking price. And that's where we have to be focused. We have to be focused on reducing the price. We have to make human life more efficient. It's just about consumption and reproduction, and creating any manifestation of that scenario that survives, that out-survives the competition. And that's all there is. That's all that invented us. And we have to take some responsibility for that pretty horrible origin, for that pretty idiotic and moronic and vacant of purpose origin. That's it. So, but I am interested in the argument. If you think completely differently, then make the damn argument. But I'm not going to argue it in text. So if you can't make a video, get somebody else to make the video. But I'm all for having the argument.